All right, guys, welcome to the Buff Show. Today we have Nik Allred in the house. So I've been excited about this one. The reason we started this podcast was to educate people on like real estate investing and that journey, but also to highlight people that are just crushing it in the community. And you definitely are one of those guys. So we're happy to have
Trying
you
my
on.
best.
So let's go at like you and I met. How long has it been? Probably been like 8 years.
2015 or 16, I think.
Yeah. So we met through a mutual friend, Nate Capel, which Nate Capel's funny. I met Nate in Mexico, but Nate was wanting to get into real estate investing and to pick up some rentals. And then you and him partnered and we did a few deals together. You guys bought a duplex and some other things. But watching you perform in your work and everything, it's pretty amazing. So let's dive into your story.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Likewise goes for you.
Yeah.
Especially getting here into watching kind of your journey and going into your own brokerage and stuff. It's been cool to see.
No, I appreciate that. So tell us a little bit about yourself, like your background, who you are, and kind of where you're at today.
Yeah, so grew up right here in Ogden High. Ended up going to Utah State, graduated there with marketing and also a degree in business management. Married, love of my life, best friend. Got 3 kids right now and still trying to find a real job, I guess. So I started into the door-to-door stuff when I was in college. Just thought it'd be a good way to get ahead.
Yeah.
I like the idea of getting kind of paid for what you produced,
right.
what you were worth and how you could create value. And that really shifted my whole paradigm. But it's resulted in, not just that, but going from door to door into ownership, partnering, kind of franchising, and a lot of other kind of things that have dovetailed off of that in terms of business and investing. And
I mean, you always seem to have your foot in some door. Every time I talk to you, you're doing a new investment, which I admire. That's impressive.
Yeah, my wife would probably wish I didn't. Just time. And she's super supportive, but yeah, I think I've got kind of a curious mind, and that leads me to just opportunities, I guess.
Yeah. So when you started in summer sales, did you ever foresee yourself like making it a long-term deal?
No, I don't think so. Once I got into sales, I was like, oh, I like this. Again, just kind of that component of what you put into it, you can get out of it instead of being tied down to some sort of wage or salary. And so I kind of knew I would be in one of those kind of arenas.
Yeah.
But I thought, I'll just do this through college and go into some sort of maybe business, B2B sales or medical sales, or I'd shadowed a couple people that were very successful in different types of B2B sales and thought that would be the route I'd go.
Dang. So after college, you graduated and you're like, was the money just too good to leave, or like doors started opening up and you're like, it just pulled you in?
When I started with our company, it's called Ninefold. The founders, it was just the door-to-door sales. You go out, you sell, and we do pest control. We were marketing for Terminex. They were the biggest in the world. They actually just got acquired this last year for like $7 billion.
Oh my gosh.
So we were one of the few companies marketing for them. And then we rolled into our own operations, owning the trucks, doing the customer service, treating the homes, all that stuff. And so my 4th year of doing it, I was a senior in college, and the founders of our organization kind of created a new model that allowed us to essentially franchise, would be the easiest way to think of it, where they'd retain part of the business and their roles and responsibilities. I'd essentially do what I'd already learned how to do the last 3 summers, but now have the upside of owning a business and seeing profit sharing and also building kind of a long-term asset. So there were doubts and questions, like there wasn't necessarily a proof of concept. So it took a little bit of, faith.
Right.
And wondering, is this going to work out? It required capital, invest in $125,000 to start and to launch that business on my end. And so, there's a lot of talks like with my dad and stuff, like, should I do this? Should I not? And kind of the skepticism there, but it turned out to be really good. Yeah. I just saw that business go full cycle and had a pretty big win there.
Yeah, so it was just last year, right? You sold one of your, I don't know what you call them, branches or areas.
Yeah, so it was in Colorado. We sold it actually at the end of 2021, December of 2021. So
that's crazy. And so today, like how many guys do you have? What size of business are we looking at?
A couple hundred employees between technicians, office staff, Salesforce, all that kind of stuff. Probably 400
That's
employees. Kind of
crazy.
fluctuates.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what markets and areas are you in like this next year? Where are you heading?
Yeah, so my main location now after selling Colorado is Phoenix. And then we've got kind of a region up along kind of the West Coast area. And then we have some out like East Coast, Virginia, Carolinas, Bama, some of that. But we've got 9 branches right now. So there's a lot of companies a lot bigger you know, than us. We've kind of grown slow and steady. Haven't had to take on any outside financing.
Which is impressive.
Yeah, which has been nice. I think it's, maybe impeded some of our growth, not having that and just spending like crazy. But it's been sustainable. And now we're ramping up with getting a little more aggressive on spending and growth. So hopefully see us growing quite a bit over the next few years.
So probably those first few years when you're opening up a branch or area, like all your funds are probably just like cycling right back into the business. Is it pretty hard for the first few years?
Luckily, I'd done really well, my second year and my first year too, but I didn't spend much. I had a scholarship for school, full ride up at Utah State, so wasn't married at that point. I was driving, $4,000 rebuilt Nissan. I'd made as a sophomore in college, cleared over $200,000 that summer, but still was just driving this little beater, you know, for a couple years. And so I'd saved a decent amount of money, and that allowed me to invest in the business. It's not that I had to put all of that money right up front. Because of just the way the cash flow works. You need a little bit to start, get your trucks, your chemical, that kind of stuff, and then you need to make sure you have enough funds to pay out your commissions to your sales force. So you can kind of continue to make money. And what I was owed for my own personal commissions, I essentially just rolled that into paying my team.
Dang.
So it allowed me to actually, when I started that in 2016, I think that same year, I think I bought the duplex with you. It was either that year or the year before. I'd invested. I'm a minority shareholder in a garbage company out in Nebraska, and did an investment too that's still a piece of dirt right by Weber State. So I was actually able to still make some investments, I think, just because the way I lived up until that point. Not spending a lot.
Just being smart and frugal. And that's always hard, because the second you start making more money, you want to go out and get all the toys and the trucks and the cars and the nice houses. But if you can stay living how you are, it'll just accelerate your growth down the
it gets harder to do once you get kids, get married. Your expenses quadruple. But
I feel you.
What are these bills coming in?
Well, and I think I've got to the point now where it's I've put myself through a lot of suffering, but at some point I'm like, man, my wife and kids don't need to go through that anymore. Because we lived in our fourplex up until we had 2 kids there, and in a 1,000 square foot little apartment, and it was great. But that doing that for those first few years afforded us the opportunity to, move up to Eden, and now we love where we're at. But our
and your place is awesome, especially the gym back there. I don't even think I've been inside the house, but just inside the
gym,
Sweat Angels,
Sweat Angels Paradise. No, we love it up there, and it's awesome. But it's those sacrifices that you got to put yourself through that end up paying dividends down the road. And so currently, I know you guys, I've helped you on multiple properties, buying and selling and stuff like that. But you guys have been working on building a nice place for a while, and you're still in the process. You haven't caught that dream quite yet. Is that by design or?
No, I'd say not really by design. It wasn't the game plan. We bought that property right before COVID crap hit, you know, so had a good opportunity, really cool kind of parcel that had everything we wanted. Private road, cars aren't driving by, amazing views, which I liked, and a lot of space, privacy and stuff. But yeah, we purchased that. We were still living in Hooper, which he ended up selling that house for us, and that's a whole nother story just about difference in I was looking at using another realtor, and what I think you remember us having that conversation about what we should list it for, and ended up, being a huge win to use you 18 months ago. But I think grounded in general, the book I'm reading right now, it's called Stillness is the Key. Again, I forgot Ryan Holland, maybe.
Yeah.
Holiday's like
Stoicism
guy. But I think that's the key for me, is just trying to find, usually in those morning hours, get grounded before 70 to 100 text messages, how the communication goes, and just being really reactive the rest of the day.
Right.
I just have to have that morning time, where there's stillness, where it's dark, going to the gym or getting my little morning routine in. I typically try to follow that Savers principle from The Miracle Morning.
Oh, yeah.
If you've read that one.
Yeah, it's been a while, but
silence, affirmations, visualization, exercise, reading, and then S stands for script, which is like journal. So those are kind of the acronym for what he believes is a really solid morning routine.
Do you do like all of those every morning or most mornings?
There's been times when I've been really, really dialed with it and consistent, and then times where I'm not.
Yeah.
Kind of ebbs and flows, and I found because we have a new baby, and maybe just switches up the sleep schedule, or getting up in the middle of the night to get a bottle for them. I'm like, dang, not as quick when the alarm goes off,
Or kids throwing up in the middle of the night.
Yeah, last 2 nights. But I try to also apply that like elastic habits principle. It's like a rubber band. So it's like, hey, and he talks about it in the book with Savers, is like you can have a 60-minute morning routine or a 2-hour morning routine, but you could also have one for 10 minutes.
Right.
So your visualization doesn't have to be a 30-minute routine, although it could be. But like you could do that practice, your affirmations, you can just shrink things down. So I try to get most of it in. Sometimes it's more comprehensive,
What
nowadays.
Like out of everything on there, what's your favorite thing to do? Like what?
I mean, exercise probably.
Yeah.
But out of the other stuff, I think I really like the affirmations. Been listening to some other stuff recently about how, your affirmations and what you say to yourself is really like reprogramming your software. And so just kind of what, casting vision for yourself and using those affirmations daily about your goals and everything, I think is super powerful.
Yeah. Do you have like a vision board or a journal? Like how do you?
I just have a vision board. Like I put up stuff on Pinterest.
Yeah.
So it's just easy to scroll through and put up pictures of, what I'm trying to achieve and visualize that, or visualize, now that we have these house plans, like visualizing myself walking through my house, like kids running into my arms when I come home from work, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And that helps, I think, you create that, like it said, create that spiritually before it's created physically.
Right.
And I think that helps it to come to pass.
No, that's amazing. That's one thing I haven't been the greatest at is like the affirmations. Like mine is wake up, go out to the gym, sauna, and then get ready for the day. And like I have a vision board up and I have goals written out, but like if you were to ask me right now, like what's your top 5 goals for the year, I could probably tell you them, but like just the fact that I have to really think is bad, right? So like that's where the affirmation and the vision board comes into play, because what happens to me is I get distracted by all this shiny objects. I'm like, oh, I want to make $1 million in sales in 1 year. I want to do this with the brokerage, or I want to buy 50 rental units. Like it's just like all these little things, and like I can have any one of them, or maybe a few of them, but like I have to focus on one until it's accomplished before the other ones are going to follow. And like my biggest weakness, I think right now is just like, I heard it, I don't know who said it, but it's like, are you a light bulb where you just like illuminate a room, or are you like a magnifying glass where you're like, if you shine it here long enough, it'll burn through the table? And I like most of the time I'm like a light bulb, just like not that dialed in. Like I'm pretty dialed in, and I think that's one thing that you've done well with, and I've always admired it about you. And I've heard multiple people say it about Nik. They're like, Nik like puts his blinders up and just goes to work. So like, would you attribute that to like your habits? You just keep like that end goal in mind, or how do you do that?
Yeah, I guess I can be super disciplined and just diligent, and that's kind of in my nature.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, when it's summertime and I got to get after that, I can just be all in, completely immersed in that. If there's a goal I really want to get, like, I'm going to go make it happen. One of those, like, more recently was when Iron Cowboy, you probably know who that is,
Yeah.
he's doing the 100 Ironmans. And I heard him speak at a conference, and I was like, that scares the crap out of me.
Yeah.
Like, to go do an Ironman. Probably never ran more than 5 miles in my life, like, didn't swim laps. I'd biked as a kid, but never cycled.
Yeah.
And that fear, like, drove me to commit to do it. So it was like day 72 with him and doing day 72 of his journey and my first day of doing an Ironman or any sort of triathlon. But
yeah.
just like once I committed and put that out there and, made myself accountable to other people, it's like, I'm not going to do this and fail. I'm not going to, and it's a lot of time too, the training, like early mornings, you're, running or swimming, and then at night, you're doing another thing. So it's like 2 days, took a lot of time away from my family. So like, I'm not going to do this, make this sacrifice and not finish this kind of goal that I set out to do.
Right.
And so, and I only gave myself about a little less than 3 months to train.
Dude, that
for
is
that.
crazy. Like, people will train for like a year or two to get ready for those.
And so I ended up finishing, doing the whole thing. It was an amazing experience.
What was your
with him.
time on that? Do you remember?
I'd have to look up on Strava, but I think the swim was like hour and a half, and can't remember how long we were biking for, like 6-ish hours. And the run was, we were running like mile and then kind of jogging type of thing, because Iron Cowboy, he'd injured his, he had like a metal plate on his shin. He was basically like speed walking the marathon. And so you didn't want to like beat him.
Yeah.
Right? It's about him. It wasn't about me. It was about supporting him. And so I didn't want to like.
Well, and the fact
and I was
that
tired too. So I was like, I don't mind this, but still finished it. I think total it was somewhere in like 12-ish.
That's still a good time
hours,
though.
I
Like,
think.
I've seen my uncle do it, and he was like around 11. But like that, it's insane. That's on my list, and the fact that you got to do it with him though.
Yeah.
Is like, you'll never forget that.
Yeah, definitely won't. But I think like in a circumstance like that, it was just, especially that day specifically, it's like put my blinders on and just like, I'm going to get this done. Completely dialed in, nothing stopping me.
Yeah.
But leading up to that, putting in the time, talking, reaching out to other people, getting the information, getting the help that I needed from people who'd had programs. I wasn't going to just try to put my own regiment together.
Right.
Like the night before the race, talked to one of my best friend's sisters. She's been like a top 5 Ironman, like going down to Kona and stuff.
Oh, dang.
I think she's retired from that now, but yeah, amazing. So she gave me all of her nutrition, like, hey, eat this at this time, do this at this time. 90 minutes before the race, eat a big waffle with a bunch of syrup. 15 minutes before the swim, eat a banana. Like,
that's cool.
So just getting that gave me a lot more confidence. I think that's a key in life, going after big goals, is like, look to people who've already done it.
Right.
Ask them for help, get the resources, and that'll give you more confidence that you can go out and accomplish it.
Yeah. You don't have to reinvent the wheel just because you're going to go do it for yourself. Like, tons of people have already done it. So learn
and
from
then,
them.
When you talked earlier about like a dream and like pain pills or whatever, I just think the first day I got in a pool to swim, it was like, oh my gosh, like swam one lap, just, like water going in my mouth, in my nose. And, it ended up being a cool experience. I think in life, like especially as adults, we don't get out of our comfort zone. We don't try new things. As a kid, I watch my kids growing up. It's like one of the most fulfilling things as a parent. I'm like, oh, my daughter just went down the slide for a first time.
Right.
Oh, they just rode their bike for a first time. And like, that is so fulfilling and exciting to see. But for us personally, I don't think we do a lot of that.
No.
And so when I got in the pool, right, I could swim like just a normal pool, but swimming laps completely different.
Yeah.
So I had to start kind of with the training wheels type of principle, whereas like, okay, I started once I realized I couldn't swim laps without just getting water and being completely out of breath, like one way down.
Right.
Started like had to use a nose plug to start, had to use like a snorkel to start, get my form down first, and then finally could remove like the nose plug. Now I could use a snorkel, get some laps in, eventually could ditch the snorkel. And then I just remember one day like it clicking. I was just at I was swimming at the Ogden Athletic Club, and just like, I went for like over a mile straight nonstop, just was in this like flow state rhythm. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can do this.
Yeah.
That first day, first week, probably first month in the swimming pool, there was that doubt, there was that pain, just
Yeah.
like, am I going to be able to figure this out,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, that was just, I guess more of like a challenging goal that I had recently, but was able to get the help from other people, put the time in, put the practice to go accomplish it. And yeah.
Do you feel like your business suffered when you were doing all that stuff, or do you feel like it gave you an edge?
No, I think because I had that goal, like that is also the time I was the most dialed
Yeah.
with my routine. And it's also when we were in that other stage of life, whereas in my parents' basement,
Yeah.
going with all this other conflict.
Just give you something else to like focus on.
I didn't have a lot to maintain. It was my parents' house.
Yeah.
I didn't have to maintain the property or
Right.
whatever. It's kind of nice. So I actually had a little more time that way. But yeah, I thought I was really dialed in the mornings, just super diligent, and that enabled me to, the rest of the day wasn't affected at all.
Yeah. I had a client, he did an Ironman, and I think he got a tattoo of it on his body, and he's like that year training and like getting everything ready, he's like, I made the most money. I was in the best shape. So it's just interesting. I've never forgot that, because we think that we're limited on time and like, oh, if I train or commit to this, everything else is going to go down. But it's weird how you almost like become elevated and like you're just able to do more, feel more. You're in a better attitude. You're working out. So
yeah,
it's cool.
And that, now that you say that, that was my biggest year,
really,
like to date.
that's crazy.
So I didn't really, but
oh man,
I'd been doing good. I'd been making good money, and our business was turning a good profit. But
it doesn't
that
make
year,
sense, like science wise, because you're spending 3 or 4 hours a day training, and you're still out producing all your other years. It's just crazy.
Yeah. I think just being dialed and also doing that kind of routine I talked about earlier, the savers stuff, the affirmations, visualizing. Like I would visualize myself coming across the finish line, like completing the Ironman, for multiple weeks leading up to it. And money-wise, had visualized that I would earn $1 million that year, and just like had that in my routine really consistently. Didn't know exactly how I'd get there. Was that going to be selling a property that had a big return, or I kind of saw a strategy to get there between my current business stuff and what I'd make. And then just with that affirmation and visualization that year, that was the year I ended up selling that branch. And
so really? Dang.
It's just weird how it like connected the dots back to like all that morning routine stuff. It was middle of July. I was listening to a podcast, and it just led me to reach out to this broker.
Really?
To see what our business could be valued at.
And he's like, I got a buyer.
And he's like, yeah, I think it's worth this much. It was a lot more than we anticipated. So I talked to my partners. I'm like, yeah, let's shop it and see.
That's crazy.
So
you weren't even necessarily thinking about selling that
No.
year?
Like
really?
At the start of that year. So that's what was cool, is I had that goal. But then like things are created, Well, and I'm like, if I didn't have that top of mind, if I wasn't visualizing or had that as a goal that year, would I have reached out to that broker?
No,
I probably wouldn't have seen that as a viable opportunity or path to get to that goal.
Yeah. Well, it's so interesting. The only difference between us and, I don't know, somebody that makes $100 million a year is like that person believes that they could do it. And I think so many people just suffer from like lack of confidence and self-belief. And I heard this quote. It was, while you're worried about what others think of you, others are intimidated by like your full power and potential. So, and I suffer with this. You're like, man, what are people going to think if I do that? Rebranding our brokerage, like all this, like we ran with a really unique brand, and it's not your typical real estate brand, but it's something that like I'm very passionate about. Be the Buffalo or your real estate buffs, like the experts, like there's just so many ways it relates back to me, but it's so uncomfortable doing that. But the more you can get in align with yourself and just believe in yourself, because I think if you were to ask, like if you were to be like, hey Peyton, could you see me a billionaire or making $100 million a year? I'd be like, heck yeah, like I could totally see that. But I think when you ask the people, that individual person, they're probably like, like they put caps on themselves.
Yeah.
And like I think everybody does it, but it's so cool to hang out with the Iron Cowboy, because like that guy doesn't put caps on himself. He just goes for it. And so like hanging around people like that just pull you up. So that's awesome. Have you had any major failures, and what did you learn from them?
Yeah, I think there's always always things to learn, and definitely some failures, you know, in a lot of different areas in life. I think I'd always wanted to play college football. I walked on at Utah State, and after 1 year, I was like, man, this is rough. Like a lot of self-doubt. They put me at a different position at safety. I was quarterback is where I had confidence.
Gotcha.
And so I kind of view that. I hit a goal because I'd always wanted to play college football, but I was also like just on the B team. Like I was on the practice squad. I was redshirt. And so deciding after 1 year to hang up the cleats. Mm-hmm. And it was like, hey, they're all in with football and keep working that, or go back and do sales. I'd done 1 summer of door-to-door and had done well my first year. And then that was that second year I referenced and made really good money for, being a sophomore in college. Made more than like my mom and dad combined in 3.5 months.
That's
so it was like,
crazy.
it was a failure.
Yeah.
But I fueled and used that failure and pain. Like, hey, I'm kind of not going to make this dream into me performing at a really high level. And the other thing is like, okay, if I'm not doing this, I'm going to do this to the highest level I'm possible. So yeah, that's kind of like a tough one for me. I think investments, there's been a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's been your worst one to date?
Oh, there's a lot of stuff with like crypto and that kind of stuff that I made some crazy returns. And then like the Luna crash, this investment was up to like, man, I think it was like 150 grand worth of Luna. I'd put in like 10 grand. I was like, man, that's a nice quick return. And then it crashed down to $7.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm still hoping I get like a tax write-off or something for that, but that was rough. One of the investments, I'm hoping it doesn't ultimately won't end up a failure, but it's by some property up here. We were trying to do some student housing stuff on.
Yeah.
Put in a bunch of money back in like 2015. It was a bunch for me at the time. And it was 200 grand. Yeah.
Oh, geez.
And I'm like, man, if I would have just bought 2015, like a couple duplexes with that. So it's still dirt. Yeah. There's nothing on it.
Nothing's been produced.
I'm sure the land's appreciated a little bit, but it's just that opportunity cost where I'm like, if I would have deployed that in other places or even in the stock market, instead it's just nothing has been. So that's like a tough one. But again, you just kind of put that to the side, forget about it, and hopefully something comes of it someday.
Yeah. Well, and you never know. I mean, that's like prime ground. So maybe somebody will make you a land offer. I don't know. Like even putting some, because the idea was like apartments there, right? Mm-hmm. Eventually. So yeah, I would say that one's still in the works. But what would you say has been your best investment?
Business-wise, I mean, obviously like family, that kind of stuff. I would say best investment. Nothing makes me happier than just the kids and my wife. But as far as business goes, definitely the pest control. So when I sold that location, I was talking about in Colorado, that operation, I summed up just all of like the profit sharing, distributions, and then our purchase price and what I received for, my part of that partnership. And it was like based on the capital I put in, like 125 grand-ish, I got like a 43x on my money. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like on capital. Yeah. And I was still making money on my personal commissions and overrides. And so it's kind of this unique thing in the space where a lot of companies don't offer that. And that's what I would say differentiates us. Like at Ninefold, we own our own branches, and you can own a piece of the pie long term, but still get paid just the same as you would short term. Yeah. But yeah, so seeing a return like that was like, you hear about that. Grant Cardone, like 10x your money. Mm-hmm. And when I did that, I mean, it was over 5 years, a little over 5 years.
But still, that's not that long.
43x it was.
That's crazy.
Pretty cool.
Huh. No, that's impressive. You kind of mentioned this, but like looking back, if somebody's just getting started, like what would have you done differently? Are there any like big things you'd be like, hey, I would have done this, or
drop out of school? No, I'm just kidding. Well, differently. I just didn't have any mentorship. Yeah. I mean, even 2013, 14, when I just first started getting money, right? I was saving it. That's all I knew how to do. Mm-hmm. Like, well, I can just not spend it, right? But I didn't really start making investments probably till 2015, 2016. Like, didn't understand the first year. Like, I did a traditional IRA. Yeah. Because I was like, oh, I don't want to pay as much like in taxes. Like I'm saving money that way. So I'll do a traditional IRA, put in some crappy CD paying like 3%, you know, not even that. But I'm like, oh, I didn't realize like the next year I'd disqualify for Roth IRAs. Like,
Right. Yeah.
because you start making more money and you can't do a Roth IRA. So I'm like, well, that was stupid. Like I should have done a Roth my first year. You know? But I just didn't really have any mentorship. Real estate is definitely a missed opportunity where I wish as I started making money, one, I would have invested it into deployed it into real estate, but also that I would have house hacked
Yeah.
and just done that with, I could have bought a house while I was in college. That would have been really easy. Like even my second year, I could have, as a sophomore, I could have bought that and rented it out to me and my buddies.
Yeah.
When I first got married, like
150 grand back then.
wish we would have got like a top and bottom, rented out the basement, and just, you know, that whole idea. So that's one that I look back on and wish that I would have done differently. As far as like my specific business, I think I would have just wish I would have been, and I'm still not great at it, but just been more bold and outspoken. I was kind of reserved and shy for a long time, wouldn't really talk about any of my successes and let people know like, hey, this is an amazing opportunity.
Right.
And so I think that was detrimental.
Well, I'm the same way. It's like I don't enjoy, because it comes off flashy, right? It's a weird thing, but people just don't understand what offers you. And guys like us, you don't want to be like overly cocky or like out there, because you see some of the people on social media and you're just like, man, they're just like, like, why are they doing that? But I heard, who was it? Somebody was talking about Grant Cardone, like he toned it way down and like was less flashy. And his business, his team members were like, Grant, you got to turn it back up because people aren't engaging. Like we're losing all this traction. So like people relate to that stuff. And if you can inspire somebody to change the way they live, that's like one of the biggest things. And that's why I want to do the podcast with you, because like there's so many people like starting out that you can help get on like the same journey and become financially free at a younger age and enjoy more time with your family and go on trips, like all those things that offers you. It's not greedy. The world is yours. You just got to go work for it and fight for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was just kind of a shift that happened maybe last few years, is like, oh, if I can share these things, view it through more of a lens of hopefully inspire and like, dude, if I could do it, like you can do this type of mentality.
Yeah.
Whereas before I've shared some numbers and stuff here today, and that's more like, yeah, you guys can get out and do this in whatever lane you're in and pursuing, you can accomplish, you know, great things.
Right.
So,
because you're young. How old are you?
31.
Yeah, me too. It just feels old to say that, but we're still just young. Like, I mean, you could put in another 10 years and be done if you wanted to, you know?
Yeah.
And be done at 40. Like, that's impressive.
Yeah, and that's what I just think any kind of entrepreneur, whether it's, you know, an agent in real estate or owning their brokerage or sales, or, and there's a lot of different things you can chase, but just finding something where there's kind of that asymmetrical like upside to it, where you're not just, hey, I'm going to get a 2% raise year over year.
Yeah.
Or even if you are in one of those positions, like find some sort of side hustle, like get into your first, I don't even own one, but Airbnb or whatever, you know, you need to find that'll start to give you some extra kind of income, and then be good with your money and save it, and it'll start to compound.
Yeah. Well, it's cool. Like one of my best buddies, and you're friends with him, Ethan, like we had him on, and he's working on buying his 4th property. He'll have 7 units from those. And just like, but he had a business in college and before, but since then he's been in tech, and like he has a good W-2 income, but it's capped. And so his thing was like, he's like, we have this talk a lot. He's like, I enjoy having like the floor, but it caps me at the ceiling. Like I know how much I'm going to make each year, but I'm capped. So he's been like heavily invested in a few different investments, and he's super frugal with his money, but just his real estates alone, where every year he's buying a different property and he'll put 3 to 5% down, live in it, rent out the other units. Like he's crushing it. Like he's never made a mortgage payment because all of his tenants are making those. So even if that is your path, let's fast forward Ethan's scenario, like 10 to 15 years, and just like real estate alone, he'll be sitting on a couple million, you know, and the passive income from that. So I think you just have to be smart with how you do it. It's not necessarily how much you make, because going 1099 or sales or entrepreneurship, like there's a lot more like headache and stress and pressure that you have to deal with. And some people, I don't know, sometimes I look at the guys that like get off at 5, and I'm just like, man, like you don't have to take any calls after 5, and the weekends
you can
are
forget
yours.
about thinking about your job. Like
Yeah.
with us, it kind of never stops.
Right.
So
Like,
yeah.
like we're not capped on the upside, but we're also not capped on the downside either. And right now, my brokerage is in the like negative, flashing red. And like that's not a great feeling, but like I'm confident that it'll turn around. Like
Yeah.
we're new, like we've had some really big investments that we've been putting money into, like lead gen and stuff and marketing. And I'm learning. So like I can't expect just a rocket ship out of here. But yeah, it's tough. So what's next for you, Nick? What's on your horizon? Like, where are you going now?
Still rolling with what I've been doing the last 10 years. Said want to get the dream house built. Hopefully we'll start construction on that here. Just a place to make what I think is most important is making the memories, relationships and experiences in life. I think those things are what it's about. I've been taught, and that resonates with me. Hopefully figure out some more properties with Mountain Buff here.
Yeah.
We'll need to get into some more of that, but
No, I love it.
probably get this house built first and then see where we're at with everything. But yeah,
Open
we've
up a
got some
few
big
more
goals with
branches.
our pest control business over the next about 5 to 7 year kind of time horizon, where we want to do some really big things. So
I love it. It's so cool because that industry, it's flashy. Like people get in it thinking they can make like some quick money, but I've never really looked at it as, oh, you're going to make a full career out of it and just crush it. But like you sell pest control, like it's just crazy. And like you've turned that into this huge business model and opportunity for you and your family. And like you're taking guys on trips to, where'd you go?
Nepal, and
yeah.
Kilimanjaro. We've done some cool ones the last 2 years.
Like that's incredible. So the experiences you're building with your friends and your family and doing all that and the people you're helping, it's just awesome. So
yeah, and that's been one of my favorite parts, just about owning a business. I mean, my sister works for us. She's down in Phoenix, but she's like one of our top kind of executive admins, and work with cousins. My brother was our top rookie last year. My wife's always helped out with little design things here and there.
Yeah.
Like one of my best friends grew up with since 3rd grade, playing soccer, football, all those sports with. He now operates and runs. He's one of our branch managers. He's making, I think, close to $100,000 a year now. Like
That's
just being able to
crazy.
provide, for him not doing any sales, just managing the technicians and taking care of customers, being able to create opportunities has been cool.
Yeah.
And doing it with
that's
people
awesome.
that I like.
Right. That is so cool. One other question before we wrap up. You seem like you've really grown in your business skills and leadership skills. How have you developed that? Is there any books you recommend? Or that's an area right now I'm like, man, it's hard when you start. Like it's one thing to be a top selling like sales rep, but then when you start managing people and businesses, it's a whole nother skill set that like.
Yeah. I think you're in a good position, and maybe others, who listen to this, just like you own this, right? Like this is your thing, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
So it's different with me because I have partners, which is valuable because I can learn from them, but it also creates, conflict or challenges because I might learn something from a book. I saw you were reading Traction up there. Really good book for anyone starting a business to learn just fundamentals on how to establish, run business, what you should do monthly, weekly, quarterly, how you should set your goals, your 5-year target, 3-year window or whatever, however he labels that. But yeah, I think just continual education, because like as your business experiences or life experiences change, right? You're going to be able to apply that information. And so I'm just a simple switch for me was listen to podcasts at the gym instead of music.
Yeah.
And it's kind of hard to focus, but I'm still probably getting like 80% of the content out of that Audible book or podcast compared to like music. So just little things like that where you're trying to always learn, and that's this is going on in life or in my business right now, and I can apply that. Then you try it, see how it works or doesn't work. That's kind of the fun part.
Well, and you guys at Ninefold, didn't you have like Jesse Itzler? Like you've had some big people come and speak.
Yeah, he's actually coming. Yeah. Well, in a couple weeks.
That's crazy. So you're surrounding yourself by people that are like on the next level, and it's pulling you and your team and everybody around you like to that next level too. Has that been huge?
Yeah, I think conferences, those kind of things are all really good. You know, we've brought in some people like Randy Garn. He's a kind of guy here in Utah that's well known and really super well connected with like the Tony Robbins and those kind of people. But he's kind of been an advisor for us. So I think, again, it goes back to like what I was saying about the Ironman, just surrounding yourself or your business with people who've done it and letting them kind of give you some thoughts and advice, and then you execute.
Yeah. And I think that's what makes life fun. If you had all the skills you needed, it would just be like, oh, well, this isn't going to be that hard. But it's like you drag yourself up this mountain and you get to this point and you're like, okay, I'm here. And you look down, and wow, that's a long ways I've come up. But then you look up and you're like, oh man, I'm not even a quarter of the way there. And in order to grow, like you have to become something else to like get to that next level. And it's hard and painful. And it goes back to that song that I've been listening to, like, why don't dreams come with pain pills? Because you have to grow and challenge and like become better to get to that next level. But it is exciting, and that's I like that's what life's about, is just becoming better and stronger and just growing as a person, as a family, and being happy, you know. So
yeah, 100%. I like that, what you said about the mountains, and had some pretty cool just realizations going to the top of Kilimanjaro, you know, 2 years ago, and helicoptering into the base camp of Everest, and just seeing those kind of mountains.
Yeah.
But then the realization, like, okay, did that. There's always another mountain to climb.
Right.
And so I think that's life. And what you said about growing, I really have loved and resonated with Tony Robbins, just saying life, the purpose or whatever. It's about growing and giving. And so I think that's where we find a lot of happiness and fulfillment, is growing in our personal lives, growing our business, growing our relationships, and then giving more of ourselves, giving of our money, giving of our time, those kind of things that just help us to keep moving forward and having fulfillment.
Yeah. When life's cruel, because I think one of the hardest times in my life is going to be when I'm 60 or 70 years old and my body's like on steep decline. And I'll be like, no, I got to push through it. But like at that point, then it's giving and accepting. Life is always about like these different phases and stages and giving back and, you know, helping pull others forward. But just you always have to be changing with, nothing's permanent, right? You're just always learning and growing with life, which is cool. So, okay, wrapping up, I want to hear what your favorite adventure you've been on, because you've been on quite a few.
Yeah, I did a lot of travel through college just because I, you know, was fortunate to have the money and then didn't have to carry a job during school. Load up my classes just like Tuesday, Thursday, so I could really travel. Philippines had to be right up there at the top. We had one of my buddies who grew up in the Philippines, so he'd negotiate everything, barter for us, you know, and take us all around island hopping.
That's sweet.
But probably, there's been quite a few places I've been to, but I think that Kilimanjaro trip was just so unique. I'd never been to the continent of Africa.
Right.
You know, going on the safaris, that kind of stuff was actually really cool. Like, you see an elephant at the zoo and it's like, all right, cool. Like, that's a magnificent creature. But you see one out in the wild, walking around, eating, doing its thing. Seeing a lion running.
Yeah.
Just in the wild, it's pretty epic. But just climbing that mountain and like the porters, the whole culture, everybody that helped us in being there with our team and taking the team to the top. That had to be probably one of the coolest trips that I've been on. So definitely would recommend that one. It's not like a mountain like Everest where you're going to die or something. Right. So there's not that huge risk.
But it's
and that's the other thing that's crazy. That was like 19,300 or 400 feet.
Jeez, that is bizarre.
It's high. But then like when I stood at base camp a couple months ago, I'm like, oh, but Everest is
way
like 9,000 whatever feet higher than Kili.
That is crazy. Huh.
So,
no, that's
I think
awesome.
those trips where you can get more ingrained, like with the culture, the people, and also do something that's challenging and memorable is going to be way more memorable and fulfilling than just sitting on the beach somewhere.
Yeah, that's what we always try and do, is like go somewhere, get immersed in the culture, and then like I haven't gone though, had like, we're going to go climb this mountain and then enjoy the culture. We're always like just traveling around, seeing different things, but that would be cool. going there with this is the main reason, and then you get immersed. So yeah, Kilimanjaro's on my bucket list after
Yeah.
seeing
Let
you
me know
guys
when.
go
I
there.
might go back. It was
Yeah.
epic.
No, that's awesome. Okay, well, last question wrapping up. What do you think has been the biggest thing that's got your life on the trajectory it's been on? Is it habits or is it setting goals? What's the biggest thing that's helped you get to where you are today?
And there's a lot, right? Like mentorship, people in my life. I've been fortunate and blessed just to have good examples around me, good principles that I grew up with, religiously, that helped kind of set a good course for discipline, obedience, those kind of things. But if I look at myself now, I would just say I'm pretty detailed and I'm pretty diligent. And so I guess in any of those areas, if it's setting goals, like I'm going to be really diligent towards that. If it's trying to build a relationship, or network or whatever.
It's those blinders you have, man. I need a pair of them. A freaking magnifying glass.
But yeah, it's hard to kind of narrow that down, man, to like just one thing. What is there's that book, What is the One Thing? I don't know if I've ever considered that in my life, because you also have all these different seasons, and like during this season,
this was the one
like
thing.
this helped me on my mission. Like this is the one thing I can maybe pull from that, and then like through here and right now, like what is it? And that's something I'll have to ponder and really consider to get a good answer for you.
Well, I think you're
on the show, maybe.
Yeah, I think you're on the right track. Like I really think like you're diligent and just what you're after, and you just go to work and put your head down and don't look up until it's done. Like I said, I've heard multiple people say that about you. So yeah, well, it's been an honor having you here. Thanks for all your gold nuggets and insights, and I'll have
it's
you
been
back.
fun, man. Okay.
So, okay, we'll see.
Have to get back in your gym here soon.
Yeah, we'll get
Some
it.
ice bath before it warms up.
Yep, it's we got another 6 inches up there today, so we'll do it.
It's nonstop. Okay.
Okay, sweet.